So the trade war has begun. Yes, it's going to make things a little more expensive for all of us here, which is why as preppers you should be bracing for impact regarding the rising cost of living and the rising cost of goods produced overseas. Now, of course, this has all started because of the recent tariffs placed on countries like Canada, Mexico, and China. Now, Canada and Mexico are getting an additional 25% tariff placed on their imported goods, and China's getting an additional 10% tariff placed on their imported goods. Now, we also have Canada's energy imports only getting a 10% tariff as opposed to a 25% tariff. And yes, I'm struggling to breathe because I'm in a gas mask, it's -8 degrees right now, and I'm trying to do too much stuff all at the same time. Regardless, there are some things for you to consider here that I want to talk to you about regarding these tariffs and the pain that we're going to have to endure to get to the other side of this to actually be successful. But before we get into it, I want to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. And thanks to them, I can get out here and do crazy stuff like wear a gas mask in -8 degrees while shooting an MCX Spear LT just to find out if it works with gigantic winter gloves. So a big thanks to Midway USA. Now, things are going to cost a lot. That's just the truth. But this shouldn't affect you too badly. Because as someone who's prepared, you shouldn't really need a bunch of stuff. Now, do we want stuff? Yes. If you're new to this game, sure, you're going to need more stuff and you probably don't have what you need quite yet. But if you've been doing this for a while, you might just want to put yourself in a holding pattern and wait for prices to correct. But this might be a necessary evil to get everything back on track, okay? And this is going to affect more than just preppers. It'll affect the tactical community and everyone else as well. And I'll give you some examples of that here in just a minute. But here's something I want you to keep in mind, okay? As someone who has more experience in business than firearms or prepping or homesteading or anything else, right? Primarily, I ran businesses. That's what I've done for a long time. This reminds me of a situation where you have losses. You're in the red and you can no longer turn a profit. And there's only a couple ways to approach the situation. You either shut everything down and cut your losses, which is generally what you try to avoid, or you just keep going and keep doing everything the same way you've always done and eventually fail, but it just takes a little bit longer. Or you do what we're doing right now, which is enduring a period of pain in order to get back into the green. So for example, if you had a retail store that wasn't making any sales because the place was gross, it had bad ambiance, and people just didn't like being there. Maybe the air conditioner was broken, maybe you could never get it cleaned up because they're always short-staffed, whatever it is, right? One of the best things to do is to close that location temporarily, revamp it, rebrand it, get everything back on track, and reinvest into it, so that way when you reopen, you have a chance of actually recuperating some of your lost customer base. But in the meantime, it's going to cost you money and it's going to cost you reputation as well because of being closed during that temporary period and the fact that people will lose some faith in your ability to do business. But by doing that, you can actually correct course and possibly save the business, if not put it in a good trajectory regarding profits in the future. And that's kind of what I assume we're seeing right now. We're going to have this period of pain in order to get to the other side. And you should already be prepared for that by being a prepper. You shouldn't need to go spend extra money on tariffed goods. You should just put yourself in a holding pattern until we get into a situation where, maybe things become a little bit more affordable again, or maybe get more things sourced here in the US, which avoids the tariffs as a whole and helps to strengthen the American economy. So there are some things to consider. This isn't just going to affect your basic stuff. Like, yes, the 10% additional tariff on China, it's going to cost you more in just about every category of your daily life. It's just going to be the way it is. You should prepare for that now and be ready for that. And the additional cost from Canada and Mexico will also impact your daily expenditures in some small way, shape, or form. But eventually, that might not be as big of an issue. There are some tactical companies you have to consider that make a lot of their products in places like Mexico or Canada. For example, you have Arc'teryx that makes very good winter gear that's based in Canada. That stuff's going to cost you more now. 511 Tactical, for example, makes some of their products in Mexico. That's going to cost you more now, right? Tactical Tailor, they have some products produced in Mexico. It's going to cost you more now. So, yes, this will affect all the different industries that are part of the preparedness genre as a whole. And it may have the desired effect down the road of moving more of those products back into being manufactured here in the USA. But in the temporary time being, it's going to cause some pain, okay? And the same thing can be said about all the stuff coming out of China with that extra 10% tax. I mean, that's like everything, right? So just assume it's going to cost you 10% more to buy stuff here in the interim until this trade war figures out exactly where the winners are and where the losers end up. But you'll be ready for it. I'm not worried about you. You're a prepper. You shouldn't need a bunch of stuff. We have to endure the pain to get to the point of success. Healing almost always requires pain. When you're treating a wound, it doesn't feel good. But if you don't treat the wound, it gets infected and eventually leads to your death. So right now we're treating the wound and it hurts. Just like if you have to pour salt on an open cut, it's going to sting, it's going to burn for a little bit. But it makes sure that the wound is clean so it can properly heal, and then eventually you're back to full health and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And I honestly hope that that's the trajectory we're on. And only time will tell. I could be wrong, and we could look back 4 years from now and say, well, that didn't go as planned. But the people who are making these decisions and who are using these strategies are much more well-versed in the way these things work than I am. So I'm just putting my faith in these people to hopefully be making the best decisions for the country, and we'll see how it turns out. But in the meantime, it is going to hurt. It needs to hurt, and it has to hurt for us to be able to move forward. And that's just the truth. We are never going to get out of a $36 trillion debt without some pain in the process. So if you're not willing to endure the pain, then you're setting yourself up for failure just further down the road. Hopefully, the more pain we endure, the faster it can be done with. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you expect to spend more money now because of these tariffs? Do you expect to have a little bit of a tighter living situation because of it? And at the same time, do you think this is the right thing to do? And hopefully, as a prepper, you can put yourself in that holding pattern and just not buy anything for a while. That'd be the best bet, honestly. But that's up to you and your personal situation, because I don't know what your situation is. And yes, this C21 mask from Mira Safety, it's pretty cool. I like it. So, video coming out on that here in the future, but I've got to get out and actually use it to see if it's actually worth telling you about. Anything else you need from me at all, go to magicprepper.com. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.